Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show, your weekly Newcastle United podcast brought to you by the Irish Mags NUFC Supporters Group. Episode 30, lads. And joining me to celebrate the occasion, it's the Sandro Tonali to your Nicolo Fagioli. It's Alan and Crisho.
I'm Tonali. I don't care if he has it on his jersey. I'm not the rat.
It's right here. It's right here today.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Who's the rat? That was my big question. Who would sell out the other one, sell out their soul quicker than the other? Crisho, I'm looking at you as well.
I don't gamble. Yeah, I don't. I just get backs. It's all about backs. Yeah. And I've got some sweet backs for you tonight. Ooh, baby.
I feel like Alan and I gamble every time we go on this show with you each week. I don't know what's going to happen next. Lovely stuff. Well, moving swiftly on, lads, on this week's show, we're going to have a little chat, lads, about things that are going on out in the Newcastle United world and community, a little bit around latest news, some transfer talk both in and out. And it might feel a little bit soon, but Alan is so excited about next season, Crisho. He already wants to start talking about our opening league fixture against Southampton, which of course is in middle of August. I think it's 17th, if my dates are correct. There's nodding heads, super stuff.
Yeah.
At least I remember something. Then for part two, we're going to take it in a little different direction and have a little spotlight that we're calling Newcastle United Urban Legends. Famous or infamous Newcastle transfer rumors down through the years, or wild stories that never came to fruition. Some of which I'm sure will be very familiar to our listeners because, let's face it, there was about 6 seasons in a row we were signing the same player, and I'm still waiting for Hamza Shooteré to arrive in on loan. So someday that might happen. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a shout out to the ITKs. Back then it was pigeons and fax machines. Now, of course, it's Twitter and X and Twix and the whole lot, Alan, as you well know. Let's go straight into it, lads. I think we'll talk about transfers in a moment because it is obviously the big thing on everyone's minds. But before we get to that, there's a couple of things emerging. I think the first thing, most people should be aware, but the membership obviously has been on sale now. Again, it seems to be, apart from the different tiers of membership, which I think we should have a chat about to see if any of it makes sense. By and large, Alan, it looks like it's the same unlimited membership, or no kind of clarity on here's the deadline by which you need to buy, or prioritizing renewals. And it just seems to be another free-for-all. If 500,000 people come in and want to buy it, 500,000 people can. Good for FFP, bad for you.
Well, I tried to renew my 2 memberships that I have, and it wouldn't let me, so I made 2 new ones for myself and herself. Grand. As I hit done, got the email through, I was like, grand, there's the confirmation email. It wasn't the confirmation email, it was an email to say, do you want to renew your old memberships? And I was like, you wouldn't let me do that 5 seconds ago. Why are you sending me that email now? But come here, I have 2 new numbers, so Scott can enjoy that one. It's a bit of a, I don't want to say piss take, but it's getting to be that kind of route that they're going down. There's far too much options for people, and the fact that it's unlimited is just not good enough. It happened last year. You could see the tickets all over StubHub. You could see the tickets all over all the third-party resale sites for £300-400 for decent games, and you're going, it's just not fair when you have lads who are wanting to go week in, week out, who can't get a ticket. Like, I was talking to a guy the other day, membership last year, 0 tickets from it. What's the point? Why would you bother renewing that? You're not going to if you're not getting anything from it. So,
and do we know, just sticking with it, do other clubs offer unlimited membership, which is in turn used for ballot ticketing purposes?
A couple of clubs do, a couple of clubs don't. I'm going to use Arsenal as an example again because my brother's an Arsenal fan, but they don't have they have one tier is unlimited, but they have an upper tier that is limited to, I think, 12 or 13,000. That's after now, but you have to be on that list you have to be in the bottom list and move your way up the tiers, kind of, which is, I think, is probably the right way to do it, maybe, but it's one of these things. I don't think anyone is ever going to get this right to the point where everyone is happy. There's always going to be someone that's going to have a face on them. So it's about finding that happy medium.
Well, we've discussed this before, guys. We've discussed this before. Look, let's just cut to the chase here. This is a business. Yeah. These are business people. Rich people are mean. Yeah. They like making money. They'll do whatever they have to keep making money. Darren Eales, even though he smiles and downs a pint once in a while, and I like the guy, don't get me wrong, but he's employed to make as much money as possible. Yeah, and to have Newcastle to be a global brand, Not because he loves Newcastle and can't wait to have a 80,000 seater stadium. It's because he wants to get his bonus every year of reaching his targets. Look, it's all down to. I don't want to turn Newcastle United into a corporate meeting every week with us, but it's going to be unlimited. Somebody is giving them the option: should we cap this or should we make it unlimited? If we make it unlimited, we'll get an extra £3 million. And someone went, go with that. It doesn't matter really. There's certain things they're being sensitive about. You know, they're doing really good stuff at the stadium and so on. But these are very, very key entry points to make money from the existing model that they have, that they're trying to build. And look at 47 quid for Mags Plus and 37 quid for Mags. I was kind of thinking, I was looking down and going, I don't see much difference there for 10 quid, apart from access to digital events. And anything else there that I missed?
There's a couple of other
tiers. Not major exciting. I know Everton, if you go with their upper tier of like their membership, you get a like little supporters pack. Like you might get a mug or a pen or something out of it. Now I know we used to do that, and we used to also physical card, which I still have my one from the old days, if you know what I mean.
It's nice as well. It's really lovely.
It's such a touch of class to actually get something with your name on it, the club crest on it, and your supporter number on it. Don't get any of that anymore.
And a little wallet. You used to get a little wallet. Which was beautiful.
And like and a nice pen as well. Enjoyed those pens. I still have those pens. It's a funny one. Like you've the two parts of my mind of it. So on one side, it's one kind of blanket membership. Now people are going to be out there far and beyond perhaps who are going to buy membership because they want to buy a membership. They want to support the club. They like the look of some of those perks, but maybe they're never going to actually apply for a ticket. So for me, I feel like there should be a distinction between like ticket membership or ballot entry or so on versus like overall membership. Or maybe you do that through your tiers separately. Because even if now they come out and say, well, we've just sold, 225,000 memberships. Everyone out there is thinking, crap, I'm competing with 200,000 people to get a ticket for that opening game. And then the second thing then, Chris, to your point about the differentiation between like the 47 to 37, we saw it straight away in the Irish Mags WhatsApp group. First question from lads was, well, I should probably buy the Mags Plus because they're more likely to get a ticket in the ballot than someone who doesn't. Now, is that true? Shouldn't be. Probably not. Hopefully not. Could be. Who knows, right? But again, it's another little chink on the tinfoil hat that we don't need people to be wearing. So it probably opens more questions than answers is the way I feel about it. And hopefully,
by that rationale, Paul, like when you think about it, poor Al, who essentially applies for every ballot and goes to a lot of matches, he's got a new membership number now. He's going to start again. So all of the history of his ticket purchasing has gone.
True.
Whereas some people might think that in this new model, well, I've been applying every ballot. I got a couple of tickets last year. Well, that will surely set me up then to, get a couple this year. Flip
it around. The club want new supporters, so me having a new supporter number, will that make them go, oh, this lad's new, he's never been to a game, we'll throw him a ticket?
It's so clever.
If that happens, I'll be literally the first time I see it. If I see you get 3 tickets back to back, I'm just going to be shouting at you. You ain't got no history.
Plastic, Jordy.
I think the thing is, we don't know, right? We assume good intentions, but bearing in mind Chrisio's point is extremely valid, right? The club is a business and a money-making machine in a world where they absolutely need to make money. But it would be nice to get some more clarity on the volumes of memberships. And like, as I said, if they sold 200,000 memberships, you'd love to know, on average, how many membership numbers are being used every week to apply for tickets and all that. Would it change anything for us? Maybe not. But would you sleep a bit better at night and not have all that confusion? I would argue yes. So
I got the. Did you get the Max Plus, Al? I just got the Max one. Just like
I got the Max Plus.
You got Max Plus. Okay.
We'll see. We'll find out. So he's one of those plastic fans that has more money than us, Chrisio. That's exactly what's happened here now.
I just spent all my money on the bloody jersey. Do you know what I mean? With the patch and the writing on the back, and I'm like, well, that's done me.
Are you going to ask me to take my one out of the drawer now again?
Take it out.
No.
Who did you get in the back of yours, Paul? So we can be a pair of bros, pair of pals over.
I should have got Fagioli on it, but I did go with Tonali in the end. I was joking with. So like, I often don't normally get names on the back of kits. I think England nearly scored. Peek behind the curtain where we have the England game versus Slovenia while we're recording. Another peek behind the curtain that we didn't mention. I am using a bit of a Mickey Mouse microphone because my one literally melted down before we hit record. The one I've used for the last few years. So anyway, but yeah, I normally don't go with names in the back of kits, but I think this is a very smart move to leave it plain white at the back.
Yeah,
it is blatantly missing something. So that's why I've gone with it. And I went with Tonali. I love Sandro Tonali. A lot of it's down to Football Manager. Couldn't believe when we signed him. Chris Show, we mentioned that before, but also I just think he's going to be such a great player for us. I just hope he comes back, all cylinders firing, and hope this injury rumor is complete nonsense, because I don't know if you've heard this, lads. There's still people going around saying he's injured.
Hamstring. There's now a couple of journalists have said it, so that's the worrying thing, that there is more than a rumor that he did do a hamstring, but it's only a hamstring.
Or Tonali going back to AC Milan and Tomori coming the other way.
Well, they'd have to give us 40 million as well. I do not care. He might not have played. His value has increased while not playing for us. He is now coming into his prime. He's now a 75, 80 million pound player to us.
This isn't a player we want to offload either, right?
No,
you know?
No, hope not.
Yeah. Okay, so we've inadvertently covered more rumors there between. So Tonali is, hopefully not gambling anymore. Apparently injured. Apparently going back to Milan. I mean, what else has he done? Who knows? But hopefully none of the above, because he's on the back of mine and Chris Show's shirts, and that's all.
Oops.
Right. We'll move on to another rumor, Alan, that you definitely brought to my attention around the stadium. And now this it kind of kicked off a couple of weeks ago. There was talks and even a number being thrown around that we'd kind of settle on something and maybe an expansion plan. Is that growing legs now, or is it just changing direction? Or
well, what I've seen online is a couple of other podcasts and other ITKs talking about it, but that they're looking like it's going to be a 60 to 65,000 seater stadium, or standing stadium, whatever they're going to do with that. That basically the Gallagate is going to be extended out a tier. We get another 7,000 in there potentially, and with whatever way they're going to mess around in the East Stand and the Milburn and all that jazz, they are going to try get it to 65,000. Now, how they're actually going to do that, I don't really know, but come here, any movement in the right direction for the stadium is exactly what you want. So 100 people more getting into the stadium is good news for me. So I don't care how many more it is, as long as it's more.
Yes, I think everybody's on that same page on the assumption that we are staying put. Or I think that's always been the thing, right? We've done a full podcast about this almost, and we've talked about it with all of our guests that have been on from both the local perspective and obviously ourselves. I think it's fair to say by the time we get to the Southampton game, nothing will have changed. I think we're still going to be wrapping up as normal. And the biggest question in my mind would be, is there a time that the number reduces in order to do this? Or is a summer enough time? And that's where there's a really fine line of driving a lot of people insane. If we're 40,000 or 45,000, or
play at Hampden for a year.
No, Alan, come on.
Come on.
We might as well get them down into Dublin if we're doing that.
Well, I wouldn't disagree if they said we're going to play at the Aviva now, but Hampden's only about an hour and a half away. It's not beyond the realms of possibilities. It's not the Stadium of Darkness isn't going to happen. Smogside isn't going to happen. No. So that's the nearest viable option for if they need to do something drastic. You go play a Hampden for a year or somewhere in Scotland for a year and see what you can do then. But
well, it's that versus keeping 75-80% of the stadium open while works are happening on an existing area or something like that. But again, we've no idea. Chris, your eyes just opened up very wide.
Well, how long did Liverpool's stadium expansion take? 2 years, was it?
Yeah,
2 years, right? 2 years, right? And they went up to
62,
right? So the way I see it, right, and I'm slightly concerned, right, because this is not PSR money. This can all just be done with the billions of pounds that our owners have, right? We could just pay for whomever to go ahead and set up anything and get it done within a 3-month deadline and get it done. The extension of the Gallagher out and doing something with the East Stand and doing something with the Milburn Stand, I personally believe that they can get it done in a year or less. And what you were saying there, Paul, about reducing it down to 80%, not next season, but the season after, that could get done within 9 months or even 8 months with so many people working on it. Just throw money at it and get it done. And then once that's done, then the new sponsorship for the stadium will come in. Aramco at St. James's or whatever it is, or Saudi Airlines at St. James's Park or whatever that is.
Or Adidas give us 15 million and it's impossible as nothing at St. James's Park.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, impossible is nothing. It's gonna need to be the name of the construction company that's doing all this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but it's a good thing all of us are qualified, engineers and
and an architect.
Planners,
And
well, look, as long as it's not BAM who has messed up the children's hospital,
should be all right.
We're not even going there.
No, I'm just saying that. Yeah,
that's an absolute shambles of a country on a national level. But anyway, that's our problem and nobody else's. Okay, cool. Well, look, membership is out. If anyone hasn't, obviously go check that out. It is important. Whatever way you look at it, it is an essential part of going to games and obviously getting tickets as well as other things that it opens up. So check it out. And of course, if you have any questions, hit up the WhatsApp group, particularly for the Irish Mags groups. Okay, lads, moving on to other moving things, i.e. players. Now, let's start with the outward ones. I think it's always good to get those out of the way. There is a hell of a lot of traction growing this week for a player who seems to have a very high value behind him, who had a very good season last year, who's never actually played a competitive game, if not any game, for Newcastle United, and that is, of course, Jakub Minta, who at the beginning of, let's call it the roundabout or the merry-go-round, it was Liverpool, because Arne Slot obviously had him on loan at Feyenoord. He's then gone to Liverpool. Okay, he's going to Liverpool. It then popped up, it was Dortmund. It then popped up, even Chelsea's name threw around there. As far as I'm concerned now, it seems to have landed on Everton, to the point where the words "he's chosen Everton" are being thrown around by a very well-known Italian that is fond of "here we going." Alan, I look at you first because I know you pull these things apart a lot. I feel like there's weight and some truth in this, and just on the side plate, and I know Chris will love this part, there's also this extra layer of it suits Newcastle to be working with Everton, who are working with Villa, who are working with Chelsea, and there seems to be a bit of a narrative about the PSR buddies within these clubs. Give us something good.
It's a strange one, but I can tell you now he won't be going to Everton. There's a fork stuck in that. That's done. He's not going to Everton. We pulled out of the DCL transfer links. Thanks be to God. Don't get me wrong, Calvert-Lewin, decent player, not £37 million worth of a player. If Calvert-Lewin is that price, Minta is 75 million because he's had a better season than him, but it's just not happening. I can see Minta going to Lyon or a Dortmund or the similar, but I can see us putting in a nice enough buyback clause. So say if we get 40 million from him, it'll be a 55-60 million pound buyback clause. We are a cleverer team than we were under a certain big fat man that used to own us, where it was get the money in now and then don't worry about anything else. We don't do that type of thing anymore. So I can't see us shooting ourselves in the foot over this. But to caveat it, at the start of the window, if I had turned around to you and said, we'll be going into next season with guaranteed Alex Isak and Bruno Guimaraes playing for us, but we'll have to sell Jakub Minta, there's not one Newcastle fan on planet Earth that would have said, no, I want to keep him over them too. So it's the best of a bad situation to let him go. Look, I don't want to see him go because he looks like he could be a bit of a talent, but you have to take the good or the bad. And as it was said at the very start, we will have to sell someone eventually. I'd rather sell him than anyone else. Not the worst one.
Yeah, I mean, especially if the price is right. I think that's where this comes into it. We bought a player for, again, top of my head, 7 million.
7 million.
Yeah. Pounds, euros, whatever. To turn over, if it is 40, right, it's a lot of money. And maybe I'm still thinking euros, right? But even if at that, that's a huge profit on a player that's never played for us and also hard to turn down. naturally there'll be the other side of things where you're like, okay, we desperately need a right-sided winger, inside forward, attacking forward, and we have one, but equally he's not proven in the Premier League at all. He, we don't know for sure, and this has come up a lot, whether he's an Eddie Howe signing or a Dan Ashworth signing, right? The classic debate. That's what I'll nickname you next week, lads. Dan Ashworth signing and an Eddie Howe signing. But Chris, on this point about the PSR shenanigans, like that the bandwagon has been jumped on very quick. Now we've been thrown into it. Granted, we have Lewis Hall coming in at a fairly high price, but this is a highly promising left back, English tax, etc., and has actually played for us. And it happened over a year ago, right? Or about a year ago. But our name has been thrown in here now, obviously, because of maybe the Minta situation. But like, I would have much more questions about Chelsea paying 19 million for some young fella that's coming from Aston Villa than anything that we're doing. I don't understand it, but I'm sure you looked at this.
I don't really, like Alan said, I don't think we're actually involved in this. We won't touch this at all. The papers and the press and the media might pull us in with the same thing, but we're not part of this at all. The guys in the press and like Luke Edwards getting fed kippers every day from the club about DCL and everything else. That's a lot of nonsense. They might look at DCL at the end of the transfer window for 12, 13 million, 14 million quid or something, maybe as a backup player. But this whole stuff, we're not involved in any of this. It is very clever to get around PSR, but I don't think Newcastle want to be like that. I don't think we need to be like that. And especially when we have like pretty rich clubs in Europe looking at Minta going, well, if you're not going to use them, we will. We'll give you what you're asking and we'll take him. So like Al said, that saves us from selling Bruno and selling Isak. It's a bit of an odd situation, of course, but it's not really what Villa and Chelsea and the rest of them are doing. That's nonsense. Like somebody valued at 1 million getting sold for 15 million. That's nonsense. Okay, we bought Minta for 7, but and I know he played in the Dutch league and it wasn't very good quality, but he looked way above that, like really way above that.
Sure, he is way above that. There's no doubt.
I know, but he did it though. He still went and did it. He could have went and flopped like what's his name, Garang Kuyal guy. He looks way off the pace. That guy.
He's going to have a good season next year. Whatever loan he gets is going to be good for him. So I'm putting that out there.
Well, yeah, don't fingers crossed, Al, right? Honestly. But we this whole situation is an indictment to the Premier League, essentially, that this is a disgrace, essentially, that these clubs before the 1st of July have to make X amount of money or they're going to get fined or get points deduction next season or start the season with a points deduction. Somebody was saying today that Newcastle might even take the risk of not selling Minta and getting a 6 or 9 point deduction and be all right with it and be all right with it and just take the losses for this year.
It's mad that they're putting clubs in the position to either take that gamble or bend the rules. So like, if there's nothing illegal, not illegal is a strong word, right? If there's nothing that breaks PSR rules by, let's say, Chelsea buying a young fella off Villa, then Villa selling a young fella to Everton, and then Everton buying a young fella back up. If it's a little, 20 million here, 20 million, like, they'll do it because they can, if it's not against the rules.
Yeah, but
Alan, I have to plug my laptop in so I die. Sorry.
Christian, we'll have you come into that, so. He's just plugging his laptop in the way to use that.
What are we talking about there?
So you're going to come in on the merry-go. So my example was Villa sell a fella for 20 million. Sorry, I didn't see your message, Alan. Villa sell a fella for 20 million. Chelsea sell another fella for 20 million, and then Everton. So it's like 3 players just moving on from club to club across 3 different clubs, and they all go up 20 million for a local homegrown player. So I'm kind of saying, like, if that's not breaking the law, so like if I can sell a player to you for 20, you can sell a player to Alan for 20, and then Alan sell back a player to me for 20. 3 players moving, all worth 20 million. All our books go in a good way because they're homegrown.
All right.
Is it actually breaking any rules? Possibly not. So that's the point I have just made. So if you want to come in on that, like, I don't know. I'm kind of saying that they're being forced. Their hands are being forced.
Yeah, look, I see what you're saying about they're not breaking any rules. They are bending the rules, and okay, yes, you did say that, but isn't it awful to think that this top elite professional football clubs have to figure out through their accountants or their legal counsel what exactly can we do here lest we get fined or 6 or 9 points? Imagine 3 clubs or 4 clubs starting the season with -9 points. It would be a laughing stock around the world, let alone Europe. But look at, like I said, I don't think Newcastle want to be any part of this kind of a thing at all. And I think Alan's right. I don't think Minta to Everton and Dominic Calvert-Lewin the other way is, honestly, I nearly fell off the chair the other day when I read that. Why would someone wrote on Twitter, well, if Minta thinks that going to Everton's a good idea, well then we don't want him. We don't need him. That's a terrible choice by his agent. But I don't know how much we get from. Are they talking like £40 million?
40 million.
So that's,
I think it's euro.
That might be your. I'd say it's euro.
Right. Well, the article that I read today, right, is that the loss that Newcastle have to cover is somewhere between 28 and 32 million pounds by the 1st of July. So they're going to have to do something. Now, this is where the Wilson thing comes in. This is where Almiron comes in. That those two going could cover some of the 32, and then we could sell Minta just legitimately, not to cover anything, and bring the money in. I'm going to put my hand up here and say that Minta was not an Eddie Howe signing at all.
No, he wasn't.
100% not.
No, he wasn't. He was not a Mike Ashley. He was a Dan Ashworth signing. There's no way he was a Howe signing.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean he's a bad player or anything like that.
I know.
It's a high level choice among a bunch of people who are involved in this. Eddie Howe being just one of them, I guess. A couple other names you mentioned there in terms of outgoings. The Longstaff to Leicester's kind of things grew a little bit of legs and then has gone quiet again. And you'd assume if there was fully some truth in that, again, we'd be pushing for that deal to happen sooner rather than later. There's been a 20 million fee also going around that we're open to selling them. But I don't know, lads, whether he's going to go or not this summer, we could talk about all day, but it's not looking like he's going anywhere between now and the end of the month.
No, so, Eddie likes him, like I said, and we've said all along, he's been trained very well. He knows his instructions. Okay, he's hardly like Socrates, but he does what it says on the tin. He's a 7 out of 10 player, or once in a while he's an 8.5 out of 10 player. That's not Tonali, Jolinton, and Bruno. So we're all right there. And we've got Willock. We don't need to sell him. And yet in January, if we need somebody might be desperate in January. They might have a lot of injuries. They might come in with 30 million, and there you go, sold.
So here's the other question then. We've talked a lot about who's going to leave, and I think it's a long summer, but let's just focus on end of the PSR window. So it'll be a few days away from when this pod drops. Alan, do you think it's just Minta is the solution and he'll be gone, or do you think it'll be someone else, or do you think it'll be no one else? Because I think no matter what way you look at it, the general consensus, and again, we don't know, seems to be, and my take was that we need to get about 20-25 million in now before that end of the month. If it's not Longstaff, I doubt it's Trippier. There's all kinds of rumors and even his personal stuff going around, which I don't think we should spend too much time on, but it is creating question marks. Either way, I don't think anything's going to move in the next few days. He's at the Euros. He's playing as we speak. It's a scandal that Gordon isn't playing in front of him, but that's, again, Gareth Southgate is a douche. But Alan, to go back on the question, what is there a solution to this end of June thing? Is it Minter? Is it someone else, or is it no one else?
I think we have already sold somebody that we don't know yet. I think they're waiting. So I reckon 2 days' time, the likes of a Wilson and a Miggy will be off to Saudi Arabia. And then on July 1st, when the new window comes in, I could see Minta going to Lyon for 35 million. Meaning next year, we have another 50, 60, 70 million to spend again. It's football. We shouldn't be talking about profit accounts. We shouldn't care about any of this, but this is how we have to look at football nowadays, and it's ridiculous. But I do think we have already sold somebody. Who that is, we don't really know. I think we're going to be all right. And then, as Chriso said, if they said to us, you have to take a 4-point deduction, yeah, cool, whatever. If it means we don't lose anyone, I take 4 points taken off us. That's what Forest and Everton got last year.
Yeah, this is the thing, and this is what I was saying, Paul. I've read this the last maybe 6 or 7 days where people have gone, look, to be frank with you, anything up to even 6 or 9 points, I'll take that. Newcastle are a good enough team. They've got a good enough quality squad. We can cover that. Everton got, what did they get fined? Like 10 and then down to 6. And they were nowhere near relegation. Well, they were for a little bit, but they safely stayed up. This is Newcastle United. We might get knocked from 6th to 7th or something like that. But yeah, I wouldn't like to look at the table after the Southampton game or before to see -9. That wouldn't be.
There's
great.
that, and there's also, lads, it's Newcastle, right?
It'd be
you
40
really
points.
Think of the fire we're playing with, right? If there's an adjudication panel or whatever, because we wouldn't be very quick. Like, they made an example out of Everton. Forest obviously then follow suit. But this would be an opportunity to really go and make a big all statement and even peel things back for, I don't know. I don't like it at all. You'd rather keep it clean. It's a shitty rule. It'll hopefully be gone in a year or two. But if that's what you have to do, they've created this ridiculous situation where clubs are now going, let's try and sell our best homegrown players. And how we've reached that world, if that continues to be a thing, other countries are laughing, other leagues are laughing, going, right, well, we're going to be the superior league. This is the biggest league in the world. It's going to collapse because, they're just not developing young players and it just becomes unsustainable. Anyway, I could talk about that all day from a football manager perspective, as Alan well knows. We'll have to see what happens in a few days. But it is a ridiculous situation. As you said, Alan, we need to talk about it, but it's good to understand it.
Look, essentially, right, and everyone listening as well, as we've talked about this, keep an eye on what happens on the 1st of July. It will be indicative of what is going to happen over the next 6 to 7 weeks of transfer business. So if you see 1st of July, Wilson and Miggy off to Saudi and Minta had to go as well, or whatever, or before that, then you'll kind of go, then you'll have a much clearer picture of like, right, we must have X amount of money to spend this summer with the Champions League money, the Adidas sponsorship, the PVH thing that's going to come in on the training, which I think is going to happen before that. It's a big deal, but it's not that big. It's like 5 million a year or 4 million a year or something, but it's still better than nothing. I think there's not to make anybody too excited now, we're talking about outs, but there definitely is a big signing coming this summer. There's one. There's definitely one.
Well, that's a good segue, Chris Shaw, to bring us in before, because this is all very serious conversations, very serious for us Irish mags as well, lads.
Yeah.
When you consider the things that have, well, it's mainly come out of Chris Shaw's mouth, Alan, over the last few weeks. We will be talking about slightly more silly matters when we move on to part 2, but just to cap off part 1 there, we'll talk about incomings. Obviously, we know Lloyd Kelly is on board, all fully done, all fully
helped him with his house. He's got a house. He's got a house there. Everything. I helped him with his house. He's very pleased.
He must be Kelly from Wicklow, the way Chris Shaw seems to know all about him. But anyway, other incomings. The James Trafford stuff is slightly quieting down. Maybe it's just, again, it's going to move so quick that it's done. Yeah, 1st of July.
Yeah. That's happening.
Any other names that maybe I'll go to both of you. Are there any other names that you've heard concrete whispers, talks, or in particular you have some particularly strong hunches that's on the way? Alan, we'll go to you first.
I want Dean Hewson, the Danish.
Oh yeah.
He is quality. I think he is a very, very good player. Would love to see him come in, but come here. What do I know? I'm not Chris. I'm not going to say it like I've been talking to his granny or anything like that. I haven't. I'm just reading Twitter. I'm reading Twitter like the rest of us lads. I'm praying that all this happens. Yeah.
He's a very, very good and a very, very good young player at that.
Yeah.
And already has quite. He's been on loan or whatever, but he has quite a number of first team appearances made at the highest level. So love that. Chris Shaw, any other names in your world? Are we still waiting for Joachim Anderson to arrive?
Yeah.
Andre Santos coming in from, was it Chelsea or Forest, wherever he was playing for?
Yeah.
These lads all missed their flights. So who isn't going to miss their flight to join Newcastle?
They're still in Motel 1. Look, listen. Well, I've got a sensational scoop for you, right? Sensational. Yeah, absolutely sensational.
Oh, God.
Here we go.
You want to go look at a deep intake of text. You're like Nico Williams. Right now, wait. 53 million pounds release clause. Look, I said just a minute ago, there's going to be a sensational signing this summer. We went out and did it with Isaac, and Alan's going to say he's already signed for like AC Milan or something.
£210,000 a week. He's not coming to us.
Listen. We sell him the project. We say to him, look, you'll have to take a pay drop, but we can guarantee you you're always in the first squad, or at least the first team possibly. Again, bringing it back to Championship manager, just saying whatever you have to get him in. But look, I think that maybe we could structure the wage and the extras so that it would cover that. Just get him in, and he might buy into the project, just like Isak did, just like everybody before him did. But like I've got or Chiesa, who's very friendly with Tonali. They get on well.
That one's more likely. Not really 100% viable because he's not really an Eddie Howe's type of player. But yeah, I can see that one maybe happening. But he's been offered to Premier League clubs for the last 3 or 4 windows, and that never bodes well for me when you see constant. Like that Jonathan David lad, Fabrizio Romano must have tweets saved where he just goes, right, here we go again, there we go, we'll just send the same out.
Every single time.
Every window.
Yeah, I love Nico Williams, and everyone's going to be a lot more familiar with him now, seeing what he's done for Spain in the Euros. He didn't play 2 games or whatever it was because they rotated, I think, for the third. But that has Man City and Pep written all over it for that right-hand side. And I don't see us competing for that wage, and also that high wage would have an impact on the other players. But I love the signing. I love the suggestion. I love the concept. You'd find it hard to believe.
All right, one more, because I know you all love it, right? Wilson out, Solanke in.
He's already said that's not happening. £65 million for him is outrageous money for that man.
65 million.
You can get two Calvert-Lewins for that.
Yeah, £65 million.
Whoa. Okay, fair enough. Okay, hey. Whoa.
Do you know that the only thing I would think is that price must be heavily assuming he would have gone to the Euros, because I think a lot of people thought he would go to the Euros, but Tony has obviously gone ahead.
What about Tony back? What about Tony back?
No.
Oh,
that would be.
That's
too much gambling things happening in one place. We have to keep these guys away from each other. This is why we only do a live pod every 6 months, guys. We're not allowed to drink together because it's just too much. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure myself. Like in terms of incoming, I feel like there's something to do with Italians or Italian clubs. Malik Thiaw was that name that was going around. I think our friend Mr. Casey has mentioned his name in the past. He's a German centre half at AC Milan. Calafiori, obviously, another player who's shining at the Euros. I'd be amazed if he doesn't end up staying in Italy and going to potentially depending on finances, follow his old manager. I feel like we may be content to do more business there. And again, I still love the other idea of Bakayoko, the Belgian fella. He's got no game time at the Euros, just like Anthony Gordon. That's good for his price, if anything. And obviously, people won't be falling over themselves because he's not. Unfortunately for him, he's not on the big stage, but I still think there's a hell of a player there. Okay, more on incoming transfers to come soon. In particular, we hope to do a very, very live show on all of this once that transfer window opens. And we'll see how it goes. Normally, I would call that silly season, lads. But let's take a quick break because silly season is about to begin for part 2. Welcome back to part 2 of the Irish Mags show. And we mentioned silly season was coming because we're going to have a little chat about some of silly seasons gone by. That wasn't hard to say. And in particular, some of those urban legends, some of those notorious transfer rumors that never happened, that were in the papers and on the news. And as we said, going across the carrier pigeons.
On the teletext
transfers linked with the teletext. Those were the days up Airtel. That's all I'll say. We said we'd kind of have a little chat about some of the more memorable ones, and some of these are going back far, lads. And there's one name on this list I've seen, and I think Mr. Alan Williamson is responsible for this. And I'm trying to draw my mind back to when or where I read this. And sometimes my brain, like Father Dougal mixing up dreams and reality, mixes up Football Manager, Championship Manager, and real life. But there was a certain Brazilian heavily linked with the move to Newcastle at one point, Alan. Can you tell us who that was?
It was Ronaldinho. So when Ronaldinho was on the move from Paris Saint-Germain to Barcelona, Newcastle had a £50 million bid accepted, seemingly.
Wow.
Yes, so that would have, seemingly. That would have been insane at that time. That would have been absolutely mental. That I think that actually would have gotten us in from being the bridesmaid to actually maybe being the bride of winning something, because he would have brought that little bit of flair. Yeah. What could have been, as they say, isn't it? Like you never really know how true these things are, but seemingly Bobby Robson had it said to him, "Do you want to join the town?" And he was like, "I'm not saying no to it," but ended up in Barcelona, unfortunately.
Jesus. Because I mean, he did the business with signing Ronaldo for PSV. So Ronaldinho obviously had a lot of respect for him. So he knew that he could go there, even for 2 seasons, and set it on fire and win us something, and then just go to Barcelona or wherever he was going. Wow, God, geez, that gives me goosebumps to even think that it could possibly happen.
That's where we're in the multiverse there of what could have happened. Maybe in another universe it happened, but sadly it didn't happen in ours. I think there's a couple of other names there.
Paul, you had one, and he's currently, let's say, a light-haired pundit on the TV.
Yes, I remember reading this, lads, and even to this day, I don't know if there was any truth in this or if this was agent shenanigans to push a move. But I do remember, after weeks of Wayne Rooney being discussed going to Manchester United, that apparently we landed in with a late, 13, 12 hour bid, and with a substantial of money and wage to actually make the deal happen. Now, at the time, it wasn't crazy out of the question. We weren't great, but we weren't terrible. Everton were probably in a decent enough spell at the time under David Moyes as well. But it was feasible enough in terms of us having the clout and the big club kind of status and all that kind of thing. I dreamt about seeing Wayne Rooney in a Newcastle kit, to the point where I did it in Football Manager repeatedly. Might have been Championship Manager back then, to be fair. But I still to this day, I feel this was primarily his own agent or group or even Everton trying to accelerate things. We probably had a bit of money at the time. I'm not sure how it was timing wise with Mike Ashley and taking over and all that, but I think there was rumors we had cash and they used that to say, "Oh, Newcastle are in order to push Man United to make the deal done." And that's what I think happened.
Jesus,
imagine that.
What could have been?
Could have been, my God. Jesus.
And I'm fairly sure timing wise, Shearer was still hanging around. I could be wrong.
No, yeah,
one of the things. Shearer is quoted as saying one of the players he wished he got to play with was Wayne Rooney. He never really played with him because he retired for England before that. Okay. Now, we've just mentioned 2 huge names. Chris Shaw, now maybe Chris Shaw in the 90s was the person going around with a sandwich board and a bell with these names on it.
I was.
But there's two names, Christian. Now, one of them I did hear. The other one was news to me. Apparently we were linked with these players. So
back in 1996, I kind of, myself as a footballer, was a mixture of these 2 guys, which I've been told this, but the first one was Zinedine Zidane, Zizou, and I think a lot of people, no, wait, this is 1996, I could still run, without popping up phlegm after 20 seconds back then, and I could play it my left and right, so I was kind of like a Zidane. Okay, give me a sec. Anybody that knows me watching this podcast is probably going to go, "You need to stop that guy talking." But look at Blackburn tried to sign Zizou. Everybody knows this, right? But they had Tim Sherwood, right? But Newcastle were in for him, and they said that he wasn't Premier League quality. Unbelievably, right? Even though what he was doing at Bordeaux was something that hadn't been seen before, right? But Newcastle were a pretty big team in 1996, so maybe he wasn't Premier League quality. To cap that off, that same year or just after it, who was Premier League quality was Des Hamilton. So essentially, you have not signing Zizou, but yet signing Des Hamilton from Bradford City, or I think he signed from Bradford City.
That is a flex I never thought I would ever hear. Never mind on this podcast. Zidane to Des Hamilton.
Wow, right, there's a transition for you, right? And in terms of Baggio, this is the one that's a little bit more believable in 1996. But if anyone was going to be good enough for us not to get Baggio, it was our hometown hero, Alan Shearer. And this is, I think you guys have heard this before, right? But this was legitimately set up. Keegan was in Italy. He went to speak to his representatives. He met him. It was proper, like Douglas Hall was like, "Whatever you need, here's the money. Go and get him." And Keegan wanted someone like he used to play at Hamburg, that kind of holding up guy and then running on, really skillful, tricky, bringing it all together, perfect. But hey, look, we just went out and got Alan Shearer, so I think it ended up very well for us that we got Alan Shearer. Obviously,
it wasn't too bad. Yeah, it was all right.
I don't know how long Joe would have lasted at St James Park, to be honest with you. But we could have had two of the greatest Italians that ever to play in the 90s. But we've got the future of the Italian midfield with us now. So, small grace.
Yeah, they're definitely missing him as well. I'm sorry, Chrisio, but the only way you resembled Roberto Baggio is if you must have had a divine ponytail the same way as he did back in those days.
The rat's tail.
I did. I actually did, Jim. I'll show you photographs.
Alan, there's one of those old disposable wind-up cameras sitting on somewhere that needs to be developed in a chemist for us to see those. Chrisio's divine ponytail.
Yeah,
right. And then we'll go a couple more names, lads. Alan, we can't do urban legends, or I don't want to say ones that got away, but ones that were frequently spoken about without mentioning.
I'm going with a double.
Very well.
I'm going with a double one here. Yeah. So they were perennially linked. You couldn't open up a newspaper. You couldn't open up Facebook. You couldn't open up anything without seeing Bas Dost or Tranquillo Barnetta moving to Newcastle United. And it got to the point where Barnetta actually tweeted when the takeover happened, I wonder, will I get my move to Newcastle now? And I was like, that man's the funniest man on the internet. I was like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah. When the player themselves are going, I hear even I'm getting annoyed at these links because they're just not happening. You know, it's like, come on, lads. I think it was about 7-8 windows in a row we were linked to them two lads. And it was just brilliant because like we were never, ever really in for them. And then it's just madness. It's just such a Newcastle thing to have the same player linked constantly, even the players to be taking the mick out of it, and it never to happen.
It's when they spoke about that often, right? There had to have been some truth in it, right? But again, you know, at that time you feel like someone's clutching at straws to keep on spouting this, that it's going to happen. If a signing like that, it's rare. Like, you know, Mbappe is a real example where Madrid would wait 3 years to sign him because it's Mbappe and he was 20 or 21 or whatever. It's rare that a club will wait that long to sign a player. So yeah, if they don't arrive in 1 or 2 windows, the ship has probably sailed.
Yeah.
To be fair. And then with two more, I suppose, that are worth mentioning, because Chrisio, you had one that I had never heard before. And again, this is where the dreams and reality chart come out, because God, I would have loved to seen this player in a Newcastle kit.
Just to mention it, right, and as it's been up online as well, this guy is one of the greatest midfielders that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think he probably plays his last international game last night. But Luka Modric, now I know he was playing okay at Tottenham, but when he went to Madrid, you really got a chance to see just how magical and a footballer, a midfielder he is. But look, this is another Keegan thing. 2007 and 2008, and he was still at Dinamo Zagreb. But you know, we had Danny Guthrie. So did we need Luka Modric? No.
There's too many there's too many contrasts and flexes here. I can't cope.
Yeah. So you know, we didn't go right. So we were looking at more Jeremy from Chelsea, but we went and got 11 million on Joey Barton and Alan Smith. You know, and again, let's like Alan said earlier in the podcast, let's just be grateful now that we have sensible people at the club that if they're going to go for somebody that has potential and has talent, just go and at least attempt to get him. Don't try and go and then spend nearly similar amount of money on people like Joey Barton and Alan Smith and Jeremy and Danny Guthrie instead of us possibly having from 2007 to about 2011, 2013 or 12. Imagine that. Luka Modric in midfield.
Would have changed an awful lot.
Yeah.
And we've never, like, obviously, if you go back before Bruno, we never, like, it's a long time since we had a midfielder of that quality. You're going back to Gary Speed, Rob Lee at best. Do you know what I mean? Serious players in their own right. But, like, you're talking worldy midfielder, Luka Modric. Oh, God, okay. I think what you said there, Christian, makes me feel better, and both of you said it. Like, you'd like to think that the people in charge now have a bit more, there's a bit more common sense decision making. And the other thing I'd like to think is that if we were to sit down and try and record this section in 5 years' time, about urban legends. There shouldn't be as many because, well, there may be twice as many because of ITK and that kind of thing, right? But what I'd like to think is that we do enough behind the scenes background work that everything else is a smokescreen. So, you know, one name I had down here was James Maddison, right? Now, it was for the entire of last summer, for one window. But lads, I probably would have backed Maddison moving based on all the information that was flowing out. Right now, whether or not, obviously it might have been down to him in the end, but, you know, it didn't happen in the end after being repeatedly thrown out there. So
I think it was legit. It was a legit transfer that he chose Tottenham over Newcastle. Straight up.
Which is fine, and it happens, right? But you'd like to think that we don't end up in a situation where we're talking about the same player for 4 months or 2 or 3 transfer windows, right? You'd like to think that either they're nonsense rumors or, as we said before, smoke screens. And I desperately can't wait for, Krisha, you kind of mentioned it, a big signing that nobody's mentioned to land.
Yeah.
Still remember the Isaac news breaking. Unbelievable. I can't wait for that. And Alan will be straight to Football Manager as soon as that happens. We are approaching the end of this week's show, but we can't possibly go any further, Chris Show, without the return of Chris Show's bad take of the week.
All right, here we go, James. Right, and I'm not trying to, you know, what's the update on the England game? Are they losing?
No, still 0-0. It's probably one of the worst games of football that's ever happened.
Wow.
And still no Anthony Gordon.
Yeah.
Still no Anthony Gordon. Just give the guy a shot.
Minutes.
Give the guy a shot.
Give Southgate a 10-year deal.
Yeah, there's a bad take. Or a good take. I'm not sure. From our perspective, a good take. But look, listen. The bad take here, right? Okay, and again, it's about the team, it's about transfers, all that. We need to keep the core of the old team. All right. Look at filling the bench with some good replacements from last year. Kelly's perfect, right? Somewhere keep along the line of Kelly. Apart from the magic surprise one that's going to blow everyone away, but keep the core of the old team. Let's not sell everybody, okay? Let's not sell anybody. In fact, maybe get some money for Almiron because he's got to go, and aim for a domestic cup in the top 7. Okay, forget about all this top 4 nonsense and all the rest of it. Let's just give the lads one more year, bedded together. They're all good players, apart from our midfield, which is world class. And our striker is world class, and our winger is world class. But look, I don't think we need to do as many drastic changes, and I don't think Newcastle fans need to be kind of sitting there every day holding out for us buying 6-7 players. I don't think it's going to happen. I believe from what I've read, the worst take that I had this week is that we shouldn't be worried about signing too many players. We should just keep the squad and team as we have, and then just get a couple of replacements in for Dummett, Richie, you know, so on. So nothing extravagant. Let's just play it safe and aim for top 7.
No,
very unambitious. Very unambitious. I know.
Yeah, it's unambitious. So my thing on this is, could this happen? Possibly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We might just sign one big name and maybe Lloyd Kelly and possibly a goalkeeper. But should anyone want that to happen? Absolutely not. My thing would be, as soon as you started saying all this, all I could think was, we did that last season.
Yeah.
Right. We earned Champions League football, and we rewarded a lot of the lads, Byrne, Murphy, Miggy, Longstaff, you know, Share to an extent. Dubravka because he had to, but like a lot of the guys who got us there got to go and play all that Champions League football. Now, it's not like we were blessed with choices not to, right? But there were times where we could have thrown in Tino and Lewis Hall and, you know, whoever, like, you know, Harvey Barnes, and actually it was a lot of the lads who got us to the Champions League who started that Champions League, right? Jacob Murphy's a really good example. So I get the sentiment behind it a little bit, but I think we've done that, and we've seen, okay, we had a lot of injuries, but it didn't really work. To, you know, on the grand scheme of things, we need more quality. I think you can talk about depth all you want. Like, you know, we were short on depth, but it wasn't numbers; it was quality. You know, so. If we don't sign 4 or 5 players, it's a really bad window. And I just think
we're going to be surprised. We're going to sign a substitute goalkeeper. We're going to sign a squad centre back that we'll get to play quite a number of times because Botman and Lascelles is out. We're not going to sign any midfielders. We might get a right winger, but we're going to have to spend a lot of money on him. Nico Williams, and we need a striker when Wilson goes to Saudi Arabia. And I don't know who that striker is going to be. I have literally no idea. That's going to be Solanke. Obviously, Al is out of the question. So even when you look at it, when we say that, right, there's nothing much to be jumping for joy there. There's no magnificent transfer window there. And we're not really even buying in that many players, are we? 3 or 4?
No,
so the same squad. We've got the same squad.
You can't do it like Football Manager, and that's what people need to realize. You can't go out and sell 15 players and bring 15 in and then expect the team to be as good as they were. You know, you need teams to gel. You can't just throw lads together and expect them to be a team. Have to gel, have to do all that jazz. It's just not great, if you know what I mean. So it's pie in the sky to go, we're going to sell 7 and bring 7 in. I think 4 or 5 is exactly the amount we'll bring in. It'll probably be 5, but I think 4 of them will get game time and 1 will be in and around the youth side of it to maybe getting the odd bench appearance. It's just how I feel it going.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I suppose only time will tell. I think the next week is an important week, or whatever it is. Yeah, we're recording this at the 25th, so you know there's been a lot of talk. Bruno's clause apparently has the date for his clause apparently that's expired. Does that change things drastically? No. May or may not. Somebody might have an extra 30 million next month that they won't have now.
Yeah.
So only time will tell. But as we said, that July 1st, things are going to start moving pretty quickly, and we will be here at the heart of it with the crazy ones and hopefully the realistic ones, the smoke screens and the gospel truth. Fingers crossed. That's otherwise we're going to be talking about Jeff Hendrick all summer.
No, I never said it.
I thought we were getting away with it.
No, never. It just lights up Chris's life when we mention it. And on that awful note, that can bring this week's episode to a close. Thanks to all the listeners who've tuned in, and of course, lads, to yourselves. I actually enjoyed that. It's nice to talk about what's happened in the real world and then jump back to that fictional world where we all lived for a very long time. Hopefully that won't happen in this window. As usual, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Of course, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, hit the follow button and leave us one of those beautiful, gorgeous, lovely 5-star ratings. We will, of course, be back next week for more Irish madness, and keep your eyes peeled for a live show. So until then, away the lads, Slán and Guffall. And we shall see you all very soon. Cheers, lads.
Slán a bhaile.
Slán a bhaile.